right, so in the spirit of time, I believe we're going to go ahead and get started. So Earl, can you still hear me and you're there?
I can, Jenny, yes.
Fabulous, just to check. So good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will be having our continued discussion on navigating the shifting media landscape, focusing this week on mobile advertising. My name is Tammy Angelo, and I'm with the Los Angeles Times Orange County team, and I'll be guiding us through today's session as your moderator. Our keynote speaker today is Earl Baer, whom you've all met on our previous sessions. He's our Director of Digital Advertising with Los Angeles Times, and I'll introduce Earl in just a moment. But first, I would like to turn it over to Ray Arroyo, your Orange County Digital Manager for Los Angeles Times Orange County. Go ahead, Ray, take it away.
Hi, Tammy. Thank you. On behalf of your local Orange County Los Angeles Times team, we would like to express our sincerest appreciation for this opportunity to create a digitally focused marketing webinar series in partnership with the local chambers. We would like to recognize the hard work of the chamber team and thank Kyle Woosley, President of the Costa Mesa Chamber, Diane Pritchett, Executive Director of the South Coast Metro Alliance, Jerry Wheeler, CEO of the Huntington Beach Chamber, Laura Henkel, Executive Director of the Laguna Beach Chamber, Heidi Gallegos, CEO of the Brea Chamber of Commerce, Steve Rosansky, CEO, and Pam Smith, Director of the Newport Beach Chamber, Carlos Muniz, Vice President, and Carlos Barahona, Director of the OC Chamber, Hispanic Chamber. Again, thank you very much. Tammy, back to you.
Thanks, Ray, and thank you to all the chamber members for attending today's session. Before we get started, I'd like to go over just a few tips and tricks on participation because we certainly value your participation throughout the session and want to make sure that you feel comfortable with the tools that are available to you. So up on the screen, you should see an example of what the control panel looks for you on the left. It says Attendee Control Panel. As you can see, there's a little orange arrow there, and if you click on that arrow, it will collapse the control panel and then open the control panel, allowing you access to some of these items, which I'll go over very quickly. If you are joining us with your computer mode, which is the default, then you're all set. If you can hear, if you're having any issues and you'd like to switch to telephone, all you have to do is toggle to that little radio button that says telephone, and it will pull up a phone number to call as well as an attendance code. So either one works, and thank you for your choice in that. And next is the questions. So you'll see right below that box another area that opens up for questions. We absolutely value your questions, so send your questions or comments in now. If you have a hot topic you want to make sure Earl covers, feel free to do that now and then throughout the session as well. So Earl will stop at points throughout the session and then we'll cover questions at the end. If for some reason we don't get to all the questions, we'll make sure we get back to you as well. So our program is about an hour today. Sometimes we finish early, but we also stay on so that we can, answer questions and make sure you get everything that you need out of this educational session. We are also recording the session, so when we're done, we'll provide some information on the landing page, and you can go to the landing page and get all of the great information from this session, including the recording, some white papers, chamber packages, etc. So we will provide you with that. And then we're also on Twitter feed. For those of you who would like to tweet throughout the session, it's hashtag #LATMGdigital, and we will also be on that same Twitter feed, obviously, after the session. So again, welcome, and as part of our continuing efforts to be the most relevant force and voice shaping digital advertising in all of Southern California, including Orange County, the Los Angeles Times Media Group offers our advertisers and chamber members access to the largest audience reach in all of Orange County, Southern California, and also nationally. So at your convenience, we encourage you to visit us at latimes.com. And then, of course, reach out to Ray Arroyo if you have further questions. So at this time, I would like to introduce Earl Baer. And Earl, as some of you already know, is a leader in the local media space in Southern California, and he has been for over 2 decades. Earl has served in senior management roles across various mediums, including print, radio, TV, and digital, and as well as integrated media sales, with great companies like CBS, Los Angeles Daily News, and of course the Los Angeles Times Media Group. So in addition, and you may not know this, but Earl also spent several years at the helm of his own media sales company, and he's been passionately involved these last 10 years creating solutions for local markets, just like those in Orange County, to effectively make the transition from traditional media to new integrated digital media. So Earl, at this point, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tammy, and thank you all for joining us today on this, which is the third of our ongoing series of educational webinars about navigating the new media landscape. And today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the essentials of mobile advertising. The first two sessions that we did, one was just sort of a general overview of the shift that's occurred over the past several years, and what has changed and what hasn't. And for those of you who were part of that initial seminar, as you may recall, we talked about the fact that a lot of things have not changed. For small to medium-sized businesses, the needs are still the same. It's to get the word out about your products, your services, your sales, your offerings, and then also to make sure that you're found and seen when people are looking for you online. What has changed is the channels through which you get that word out and through which people find out about you as the digital age has emerged over the past several years. So we're going to do a deep dive into that. Last time we met, we talked about audience targeting and the fact that digital offers an amazing opportunity for us to find the right audience at the right place at the right time. And that is particularly true of mobile. And we're going to get a little bit more into details about how we do that mobily and how the messaging between what you do through your mobile efforts might differ from what you're doing through desktop or certainly through general media. So hopefully this will be interesting for you. We try to keep these sessions in spirit of everybody's time short and concise, but hopefully very relevant to what kind of information you're looking to find out about. So again, we talk about kind of the three pillars to a successful digital marketing program. And the first and foremost, just to recap, is access to audience. You can have a great quality audience, but if there's not a lot of potential customers that can do business with you, you're probably in the wrong place as far as advertising. So we'll talk a little bit about how mobile has really emerged as one of the biggest audience pools and potential customer bases for you to be reaching out to. And when you're looking at audience, you're not just looking at size and scope, but you're also looking at the quality of those audiences. Second is, the LA DMA, which is made up of LA, Orange County, and also San Bernardino, Riverside, and Ventura counties, is huge. It's 52,000 square miles. It's 18 million people. So within that big pool of potential audience, it's really important to be able to identify those customers who are more likely to do business with you. So talking about messaging and delivery channels and targeting is also very important. And then these are a little out of order, but messaging and delivery channels is also very important. Once you've identified who the audience is that you're trying to talk to, being able to express what you have to offer in a quality environment that's credible is really important too, and mobile offers you a lot of opportunities to do that as well. So first off, just a quick snapshot of mobile. As you know, this is a typical view of just about any waiting room or place that you go to these days. Whereas people used to chat with each other, now they're looking at their electronic devices, for good or for bad. But people are accessing data and content almost everywhere they go. So you need to be a part of that. This is a great visual example that we saw recently. This was in 2005 when the new Pope was introduced in Vatican Square. And if you notice, there's a lot of people in the square. But just a few years later, when the next new Pope was introduced, look at this visual. Everybody was taking pictures with their smartphones or their mobile devices. So things have changed dramatically. That device in your pocket or in your purse is traveling with people everywhere they go. And this is how they communicate with the world and get a lot of their information. So being a part of that dynamic is very, very important. Let's talk about increased attention. This is a snapshot of a few quarters from the first quarter in 2012 into the third quarter in 2014. And it shows the time that people have spent with their mobile devices versus television. As you can see, television has been pretty steady in terms of hours spent per week or per month on that device. But when you look at mobile, I've been at the LA Times now for just a little over 4 years, so I started in 2011. We have seen the rise in access to our site through mobile devices growing so dramatically over the past few years. It's almost staggering. If you look at latimes.com, for example, which has a big audience, over a third of our pages that are viewed on latimes.com are being viewed on mobile phones, and that's a big, big increase, obviously, from just a few years ago. So we need to be a part of that trend. First, before we get into targeting audiences, one thing that's also very important as far as a topic cover when it comes to mobile is the importance of businesses to optimize your site for mobile. I don't know how many of you have heard about what was referred to by some as Mobilegeddon, but it happened a couple of months ago, and Google changed the way that they rank and sort results based on how mobile-friendly a business's website is. So essentially, if people are looking for your type of product or service through Google search, if your site, and they're looking on a mobile device, if your site is not mobile-friendly, chances are, in increasing fashion, you're not going to be showing up at the top of search results. And if you do pay-per-click search marketing through Google AdWords or through other means, you might end up not ranking as high even if you're paying for clicks, or you're going to be paying more for clicks because Google doesn't look at your site as favorably as they would for somebody who's mobily optimized. So here's a few stats, and then we'll get into a few visual examples. 25% of searches begin now on mobile devices, and search engines know which sites to send them to. Again, Google is all about customer experience. They're in the business of serving customers and having high customer satisfaction as well as most businesses. So when they send somebody to a site, they want to make sure the experience is good. And if somebody goes to a site and they can't read it or have to do a lot of pinching and squeezing to get the site to be readable, that's not a good consumer experience. And they're penalizing companies for that now pretty regularly. Mobile users need information differently than desktop users. They need it quickly. So that's something else that we're going to be touching on in terms of the way your mobile site is configured, your mobile experience is configured, and the way your advertising needs to be configured as well. Mobile users are hugely valuable. They spend more time than desktop users per purchase. And if you optimize their shopping experience, you're catching them at a very important moment in the sales funnel, which is when they're looking for, I need a restaurant right now, I need gas right now, I need a product or service, and I'm on the road. You're closer to the time of purchase when you're reaching people on mobile devices. And also, people use more than one device, and they want a seamless experience. So when they do go to your desktop site, and then they're accessing you through mobile, even though the site may look a little bit different, they want some consistency so they can navigate around. These are all important touch points for you to be aware of when you're looking at your mobile website and your mobile experience. So there's two ways in which you can have a good mobile experience for consumers, and one is to have a responsive site. Within the past few years, technology has really dramatically improved on website design and technology that allows sites to basically modify themselves based on the size of the screen that people are looking at. We'll show you an example of that. So for example, in fact, I'll take you into our site to give you an example of what that looks like. So this is latimes.com. We are a fully functional, fully responsive website. So if you look at the site right now at pretty much a full desktop mode, you can see what it looks like. But as you get into reducing the size of this screen into more of a horizontal tablet mode, let me just refresh the site here for a second, sorry about that. You'll see that things will modify on the site and readjust based on the size of the screen. So if you actually get the site into what would typically be a larger iPhone or Android size site, the ads reconfigure, the quality of the navigation shifts at the top, and as you scroll up and down the site, everything modifies itself. So you don't have to pinch and scroll and have to search for things within the site. It modifies for the size of the screen that you're looking at. Another important feature of these types of sites is that the ads will also appear. Let me close this. Your standard ad units will also appear. So you're not only reliant on those smaller kind of banners that appear at the top of a lot of mobile sites. You can run the same kind of ad cube size ads that you're running on a desktop site on a mobile site, and that's really important for continuity of your ad message across different sites. So many sites in the marketplace are now going to these responsive design sites. A lot aren't. A lot are still looking at a second alternative, which is I don't want to invest in a fully responsive site, but I know that my mobile site needs to be different. So the other option that you do have, these are a couple of examples of very nicely designed mobile sites. What happens here is if you devise a separate site that's a mobilely enabled site, what happens is when Google is looking for you, if somebody's looking from a smartphone, they'll steer people to your mobile site as opposed to your desktop site. The idea with mobile, more simplified mobile sites is, an example of Shutterfly here is, it has all the basic navigational areas of their current site, but it's simplified and it's easier to read on a smaller screen size. Etsy here is an online shopping experience where they have price item type advertising, but they've designed a mobile site where they can drop in probably not the volume of types of products that they have on their desktop site, but ones that are easily read and easily digested on a mobile device. So those are your two choices. You can either go with a responsive design site that adapts itself to the mobile view, or you can go with a separate mobile site that's separate from your desktop site. But in both cases, very important to consider doing either one or the other if you're going to be showing up and being competitive on search and search results. Hope that makes sense. Optimizing your ad campaign for mobile. One thing that you need to look at when you're looking for a partner to work with regard to running mobile advertising is to work with publishers that do attract mobile audiences. Again, if you're working with publishers that don't have a great mobile experience, chances are you're not going to be getting access to that audience. And in a lot of cases, there are some big publishers out there still, including a lot of big news websites that have separate desktop sites and separate mobile sites. If you run campaigns with those types of publishers, you need to be aware that if you're buying an ad campaign on their website, their mobile audience may not be able to access your ad, may never see it, unless you also buy their mobile website. And you need to have those discussions with those publishers to make sure you're having your ads deploying across both sites. With LAtimes.com, you don't have to worry so much about that because if you run an ad campaign, because we're responsive, you get the access to that mobile audience as well. And as I said earlier, in the case of our site, over 30% of our audience is looking at our site on mobile devices. So if we didn't have that responsive design site and you didn't buy a separate mobile site, you wouldn't have your ads shown to that audience. Effective targeting. There are different degrees of quality in terms of what publishers offer in terms of the ability to target to mobile, and we'll get a little bit into how that's done. But unlike desktop, where you're attaching your ad messaging to an IP address that gives you an idea of the user's location, can also tie in with data about their demographics and their user behavior. With mobile, it's all about GPS location and having people having a mobilely enabled phone. So, and there are, again, varying degrees of how accurate your mobile targeting can be based on that, and we'll get a little bit more into that in just a minute. And then messaging and delivery, think about specifically messaging for mobile. You want to make sure your ads are not too cluttered and can be seen on a smaller mobile device, and that the sites that you're running on have a good integration of advertising placements on it. It's not only relevant or relevant to, or they're not only dependent upon those smaller banner type sizes on mobile sites, but that you can get a fuller size ad like I showed you earlier on those sites. So sites with the right audience, this is really important, and this kind of ties into what we were just talking about. Look at sites that have an appealing visual design, ideally ones that are responsive on any device. As with any kind of advertising, you want to be advertising to sites that are trustworthy in terms of content and relevant, and that people want to access via mobile devices. Has enough scale in your area to be important to your business. Again, if we're talking about a local business that is really just looking to tap into a 10-mile radius around their location because that's really where their customer base is, you want to find somebody who has solutions to be able to offer you enough scale and enough volume of audience to be able to really run an effective ad campaign in that general area. So audience targeting with mobile, we talked a little bit about the fact that in all kinds of digital advertising, there's three types of general targeting. One is where the person is, geographic targeting. demographic targeting and behavioral targeting. Difference between demographic targeting and behavioral is demographic is more to do with the standard U.S. Census Bureau type of stats: age, income, number of people in the household, whether they have kids in the family, occupation. Behavioral is really using cookie-based information to look at what kind of content people have been looking at or what things they've been searching for. Up until now, behavioral targeting has been tougher to do on mobile devices because, unlike desktops, cookies are not used in mobile devices. So your information is not cookied like it is on a computer. But that is changing. Some new emerging technology has allowed us to start being able to do a little bit of behavioral targeting and demographic targeting on mobile devices, which we won't get into too heavily today, but know that that's a capability that's coming across the board very soon. So the biggest benefit to advertising with mobile is clearly geotargeting, being able to reach people not tethered to their desktop, but really on the go and be able to reach them where they are at the right place at the right time. So examples of that, again, here's that big LADMA, the 52,000 square miles of it. If you're a business, for example, or an event that's occurring in Irvine, and you want to draw people in during the time when that event is going on, or maybe the 24 hours prior to it, you can time release advertising within a very specific geographic radius around that location during a certain time frame. So, for example, if this was going on a Saturday from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. on July 11th, you can time release advertising to people looking at mobile devices, and you can go as granularly. With desktop, you're limited to zip code targeting, but with mobile, because of the accuracy of GPS location, you can get as targeted as a radius around a location in terms of meters or miles around a location, or actually you can what we call geofence, where you can actually carve out a radius around a location and choose specific locales and serve advertising only to those geofenced areas. It's pretty precise and pretty accurate. Another example, if you're a local business, let's say you're a CPA and you're trying to reach people in the Anaheim area, you can again target specific areas at the right place at the right time and be very specific about who you're targeting. This is the most accurate way of targeting geographically audiences. So where this, another example of how this is really potentially powerful. We were working recently with a company that is a ticket broker, and they sell concert and sports tickets, and they want to reach that specific audience. So they could do some general targeting and geo-targeting to the LA area, but with mobile targeting, we can actually geo-fence around areas like the Honda Center, the Staples Center in Los Angeles, during concert and sporting events and during the times when those are going on, and serve advertising to people looking at their phones in those venues during those times and appealing to them about buying more tickets for similar type events. And you can carry that across a lot of different categories and a lot of different product channels and be very specific about the targeting that you're trying to achieve. So that's where mobile is really taking off in terms of effectiveness and technology that allows us to do some pretty amazing things. A little bit about geo-targeting the right message at the right time. So again, you can look at people who are near your business at any given time and be targeting messages to them. And you can do that. We have actually restaurants who need to drive foot traffic during certain times of the day. You can time release things when you need to drive foot traffic and look at a several block radius around a location and serve an invitation to those people to come into your location. Again, key events, if you're looking at an event happening in your area, drawing people into those, and in locations that need your service. Opportunity to deliver a timely and relevant message at the right place at the right time. Great stuff. The other thing that is changing within mobile is the ability now to serve rich media like we've never been able to do before. As we indicated earlier, it used to be just a small kind of almost hard to see banner at the top of the page, but now with mobile we can do a lot of the things that we've been doing with desktop for a lot of years, with things that are interactive, things that can play video. We can do what are called interstitials, which is a screen that comes on when you're flipping from one page of a site to the other and basically gives you a full page ad experience. I'll show you a couple more interactive examples here that you may find interesting. So this is a rich media vendor that we do have access to, where we build some ad creatives. This is an example of, for example, in-banner video, where people click and view a video in the midst of an ad. Pretty engaging stuff. Show you just a few of these. This is the idea where you can have interactivity, where you can scroll, and this could be different products or different services that an advertiser offers. And again, interactivity can build into these, where you can click for a quote, you can click to visit a website. These can be served again, where if you have multiple locations, you can serve a different ad message based on the user's location that targets that specific store or that specific location of your business. Carousel, this is another example, whereas, you know, with mobile devices, it's not a mouse so much, but it's people using their hand to scroll through content. This is where they can actually scroll through different types of products or services through an ad unit. I'll show you just one more, which is this, which you don't even have to touch, but it's really engaging. It's got motion and it's got dimension to it. These are the sorts of things that we can now build into mobile, which we never ever were able to do before. So in terms of an effective ad campaign, these are some stats that we pulled recently about the effectiveness of digital advertising. It's been cited through a lot of research that digital advertising really does work in terms of increasing awareness about a business. We've seen businesses increase their awareness up to 180% by running an effective digital ad campaign. With mobile, because of the intimacy of that screen and that screen experience, people are in a much more laser-focused, interrupted mode when they're looking typically at a mobile device. The increase in awareness increases even more dramatically with mobile, up over 400%. And then also we talked earlier about purchase intent. People who have that kind of layback experience of looking at a desktop computer or even a tablet at home, where most usage is not actually out of the house, it's actually in the house on a couch or laying in bed at night. That's more of a layback kind of browsing experience. With mobile, it's talking about, I need this product and I need it now on the go. Again, the increase in purchase intent increases about fourfold when you're talking about using mobile marketing. And the two work very, very well together. Again, the experience of having that layback, browse-through experience on a desktop or a tablet, where you can research a product, research a company, research a service, there's something very, very effective about that. But using that in tandem with the mobile experience, where I've heard about that company, I've researched them, and wow, suddenly I'm seeing an ad here when I really need that product or service, or I want to go back to that site and find out where their location is and map it. That's where mobile works very, very closely in play with what you're doing with your desktop experience. So, you know, as we kind of wind down on the slides here, just again, I want to reiterate something that Tammy spoke about earlier. LAtimes.com, we have extraordinary ability to reach audiences. We have great access to a large spectrum of consumers in the Orange County area with a very high quality, premium newsreader type of audience, which is has high spending power, is highly engaged. We have credible messaging environments. The location in which you run advertising is very important. We pride ourselves on being able to attach your ad message to content that is bar none Pulitzer Prize winning content at times on our site, and the ability also to, when you run ad campaigns with us, ensure that your ads are being seen not just by people who are on a desktop experience, but also people who are on the go accessing our content on mobile devices. We also have our Times Plus Extended Reach program, where, you know, we reach a lot of people through LAtimes.com, obviously, but we have access to mobile audiences that are throughout the county on some of the top, most premium websites, and also mobile web apps in the marketplace as well. So if you're looking for access to audience, we do have that ability to do that through LA Times. So I guess at this point, Tammy, do you want to shout any questions that might have been asked?
We do have a couple of questions that came along, so thank you, Earl. And I encourage, if you have questions, go ahead and submit those, and I'll make sure they get covered as well. One of the questions is about advertising on a website. And the question is, if I am advertising on a website, aren't they seeing my ad on their mobile phone? So I think this goes back to your point about having either a mobile ready, responsive site that's mobile ready, or do you need a separate site?
So yeah, the way I'm reading into that question, we kind of covered a little bit here, but I'll reiterate it. So if a website, I'll use LAtimes.com as an example. If a website is responsive, and we're talking not so much about your website as a business, but our website as a publisher who you're advertising with, if our website is responsive, that means that people looking at LAtimes.com, whether it be on a desktop or a mobile device, will see the same site. which means that if you're running an ad campaign with us, depending on how it's targeted, can be viewed, whether it be somebody looking at that section or that content on LATimes.com on a desktop device, a tablet, or a mobile device. If, however, you're advertising with a publisher's website that is not responsive, they will typically have a separate mobile site, and those ad campaigns need to be scheduled and managed separately from one another. Your ad doesn't automatically flow from one screen view to the other. It's actually a completely separate website. It may share content, but it's a separate website. So that's an important question to ask if you are working with publishers, to be sure that if you're buying an ad campaign with them, that you have access to their mobile audience. In many cases with publishers who don't have a responsive site, you'll have to actually put two different campaigns together, one for their desktop and one for their mobile site.
Excellent. Thank you, Earl. So I believe you answered this question, but I want to make sure and maybe just re-summarize it. I have a small business and can only advertise within a small geographic area. What is the best way of doing that through mobile?
So if you have a small budget to spend on advertising, really mobile or digital in general is one of the more cost-efficient ways that you can advertise. And the reason being is, unlike a lot of other advertising where you can do direct mail and you can choose which zip codes that direct mail goes out to. But beyond that, you're not necessarily targeting the consumer that's most interested in your product or service. With desktop digital advertising, you can certainly get as granular a zip code, but then you can also layer other types of targeting on top of that based on the type of sites, the type of content people are reading, and that cookied information we talked about earlier. You can, for example, if you're advertising an Italian food restaurant, you can actually target to people who have been looking up information about Italian food or Italian food restaurants. You can target based on the type of consumer profile that person is described by. With mobile, you can't get quite as granular with the demographic and behavioral targeting, but you can get very specific in terms of geo-targeting. Again, with direct mail or any other type of traditional media, it's a little bit harder to time release when people are going to be viewing your ad. With mobile, you can time it down to the hour. So for example, going back to that Italian restaurant, if you're trying to market yourself, if you're an Italian restaurant that wants to drive lunchtime traffic, we could deploy an ad campaign Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and geofence the higher populated business areas within your 5-mile radius around your location and serve up an offer to those folks. And again, the pricing of all digital advertising is pretty much based on a cost per 1,000 impressions. But if those 1,000 impressions that are being served are really targeted and the message is really relevant to that target audience, chances are the redemption on getting people to respond to your offer is going to be much more strong than doing more of a shotgun approach by advertising through a general mass market medium. So I'm a big believer, as we've seen with a lot of great examples here with what we do, that targeted mobile advertising or digital advertising can be highly effective and highly efficient in terms of a budget.
Thanks, Earl. So there's a couple more that have come in that I think tag on to what you're just saying. One is, can I text my specials to other phones, or do I need to have a customer list? And then the next one says, can I send coupons for my restaurant to phones?
Okay, good question. So with text messaging, there are a lot of regulations in and around that where, basically you can't be spamming people with text messages, and I appreciate that as a consumer. That's a good thing. So that gets more into mobile relationship marketing, where you have either gotten the permission from somebody to text them with special offers. So that's similar to building an email database. Building a text database is something a lot of people are doing more and more these days. Being able to serve up special offers for loyal customers and be able to let them know about it through text. But that is something that you can't just do generally. There are some companies that offer third-party text databases, but you have to be real careful with that because some people are annoyed by people sending them unsolicited text messages. The ability to serve up coupons, that is something that we can do digitally. We do have advertisers who run ad campaigns with us, again, very specifically targeted, where if you recall some of those interactive display ads that we showed, we can certainly build those in a fashion such that you can click on it, download a coupon, print it, or save that image to your phone and bring it into a location. That is becoming very, very prevalent these days in terms of offering a special offer that you can upload right to your phone, and when you go into the place of business, show it on your phone, and it's redeemed. So couponing is, yeah, an emerging, fast emerging part of mobile marketing.
Thanks, Earl. Lots of questions are starting to pop in, so let's take a couple more and then we can close out. One of them is, what is the percentage of my media buys that should be allocated to mobile buys?
So that's a great question. It obviously is very dependent upon your type of business and other certain parameters. Number one is, I'm going to assume that you have a mobile-friendly experience in place, which means that if you're going to be advertising mobily, you do want to make sure that when people are clicking on your ads and going to your website, that they can see what you have to offer. So I would say first and foremost, make sure you're mobile ready if you're going to be advertising mobily. But it, again, depends on the type of product or service. If you're trying to sell a product or service where it really is information heavy and people need to kind of read a lot about what you have to offer, they need to be looking at a lot of content or pictures or video about what you have to offer. Mobile for certain types of messaging can be effective. If you want to reach people with a certain particular message on the go, mobile could be very strong, but in those cases, desktop advertising digitally might be better for you because you can have more of that exploratory layback experience with a consumer that can take time to look through what you have to offer. But if you are a type of business where people from the road are checking for that type of product or service, you should be allocating a certain percentage of your budget to mobile. What that percentage is, it's really dependent on what else you do and what else is working for you. If you're currently doing newspaper, if you're currently doing direct mail, you might be able to carve off another 10 to 20% of that and devote to some sort of digital media if you're not doing any at all. You know, and a lot of businesses also have to be aware that they need to be doing pay-per-click search marketing as well, and that works extremely well for a lot of businesses. You want to, you know, make mobile work in tandem with that. So I guess the short answer is there's no real exact answer to that question. As with any sort of advising that we do, and we do invite you to give us a call to do this, we will spend some quality time with you asking some very specific questions about your business, what kind of messaging you're trying to get out, what kind of audience you're trying to target, and you should be working with a media consultant to help you determine what that need is. And I think with that we can give you some, you know, good customized advising as to what percentage of a budget would be relevant to you as far as what kind of mobile budget you should be looking at and general digital in overall in terms of desktop, mobile, and tablet.
Thanks, Earl. So last question is, how can I increase my search ranking on mobile phones?
So number one is that, especially since the recent change at Google in terms of how they look at sites, is making sure you have a mobile-friendly site. So that's number one. That is also something that also really requires a little bit of advising. Search engine optimization is a whole craft and an art that we offer that service here at LA Times, and I know a lot of other companies do as well. But it's really making sure not just that your site is mobile-friendly, but that Google sees your site in a way that matches very closely with what people are searching for. The way that you construct your pages, the way you put behind-the-scenes title tags and tags within your pages of your site, the way your navigation is constructed, the way your images are optimized on your site. Do they load fast? Do they load slowly? There's a lot of intricacies to a website that can make it favorable to Google and not favorable to Google. And unfortunately, Google has a lot of power in this world in terms of making or breaking businesses in terms of how you rank. But there are some, you know, a handful of very basic things that you can do pretty quickly to improve the quality of your site. We actually have a program here at LATimes.com where we can run a website analysis for a business, and within just a few minutes we can come back to you with some very specific things that might be needs that need to be adjusted to a website to make it more mobile friendly. And we're happy to we're happy to do that for any business out there that wants to tap into us to do that. And that consulting, by the way, is free. We don't charge anything for doing a website consultation.
Thank you, Earl. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ray to briefly discuss the partnership with the chambers between Los Angeles Times Orange County team, and then we'll close. So Ray?
Thank you, Earl and Tammy. Well, just wanted to let you know we have created exclusive chamber member packages which have been discounted upwards of 20%. You can see them up on your screen there. Now, there are different levels. They're ranging from 20,000 to 150,000 geotargeted banner impressions. But note that we also offer targeted emails and other solutions that will help send out your message to a new audience. Just as Earl said, our team is here to help you choose a plan that works best for you and your needs. So please reach out to Janet Vinograd, who is the Orange County Director, or myself, and the emails listed on the screen there, and we can schedule a brief meeting. But we look forward to really helping a lot of folks with their plans. So again, here to help. Here's the information. I'd like to turn it back over to you, Tammy.
Thank you. So on behalf of all of the Los Angeles Times and Orange County team, we would like to thank you guys for attending today. And at the conclusion of this seminar, you'll receive an email from me that will include a link over to our landing page. And on the landing page, you'll find these member packages, the recorded session from today, as well as some white papers and information in regard to future webcasts coming up as well. So there's also a small survey if you'd like to provide some input on the topics you'd like to see in the future. We welcome that as well. So look forward to seeing that email come from me today. And thank you. Have a great Wednesday. Enjoy the day.
Thank you, everybody.